Lucky them.
So I have the slides for 4 out of 5 presentations tonight. 140 Riverside Drive, I don't remember seeing.
That's
so
the window plan?
I think it is, yes. Hopefully they'll be able to share their screen when that time comes.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, that's my echo. I'll get rid of that, sorry. Boy, there's nothing crazier than hearing your own voice.
My computer died this morning, so I'm on a borrow one. So
Well, I noticed you're in a different room.
yeah, well, I'm on the other side of the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
It's a very, very handsome bookcase, I gotta say.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that a real bookcase or is that a backdrop?
Oh no, it has real books and
And everything, yeah.
what they are. 'Cause
All right, I'm going to go live with the webinar now. That'll let the attendees in, which presumably will include the applicants.
right.
We have someone phoning in from San Francisco.
Wow. It's Doug, Susan. Didn't hear from Jay. Anybody?
Not one way or another, no.
Yeah.
Susan, I passed your message to Mason. Spoke to him yesterday.
How's he doing?
He's good. He sends
All
his
right.
notes.
Doug McGowan said he's going to be late, a little bit late. As long as we have one Doug, we'll be all right.
That's right.
That's right.
It's sort of like the precincts. If you get one, you get both.
If neither of us were here, you guys would all become Douglas.
We'd be,
Maybe.
I was going to unmute, but I didn't get there quick enough. Yeah.
That's right.
There was some comedian about you doing the same thing with Ruthless.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would say, what is your name? I go, it's past tense of dig. That's all.
At least you didn't grow up with, if you see Kay, tell him I said hello.
Oh my. Well,
Oh,
then there's
goodness.
there's another one. See you
What's
next
your
week.
real first name, Kay?
James.
Oh,
So have you been
that's a
Kay
nice
the whole,
name.
since childhood though, or?
Since, since I was 5, I think.
Wow. Are you technically a junior? Is that why?
No, I came from the Sandy Becker show, if anybody's a local New York person.
Yeah.
Character on it called Que Lastima, and which of course is Spanish for what a pity, but my brother decided that was a good name for me. And he couldn't spell in English or Spanish at that age, so I just got the letter.
He's an older brother, I assume, who was not pleased
Yeah,
with
yeah.
his arrival.
No, he's an older brother.
Oh, that's as good a story as I've heard.
Yeah, there you
It
go.
just
I
occurred
know.
to me that my background may actually be inappropriate tonight, considering that one of the applicants is the Ansonia. I don't want to
Yeah.
prejudice anyone's decision.
It's very overly
No, it's nice.
romanticized, you know.
And my same background for all meetings. So.
So what's the first item on the agenda? I know we're waiting for Michelle.
Yeah, I think it is the Ansonia. It's what I got.
Okay. So
Okay.
whoever is the applicant for the Ansonia, could you use the raise hand function on your participants or your participants button? That's okay. So that's Mr. Mulhall. I'm probably butchering that name. Forgive me. I'm promoting him to panelist now.
Okay. Can I just ask if somebody be able to do notes for us? Michelle is at a family first night Hanukkah.
Oh, that's right. Michelle's not with us tonight. Okay.
Is anybody able to do that? And then we can work later on the resolutions.
I just finished the HSS minutes, so,
So you're in mode? Is that what you're saying?
well, if no one else will do it, I will, but yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madge. That'd be awesome. You
Thanks,
think
Madge.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do it, but unfortunately, I can't do that and run the slides at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's okay, I'll do it.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So if we're not waiting for Michelle, then I think we're all here, are we not?
I
Yes,
think, yes.
All right, so Kay, it's all yours. I'll mute myself now.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. This is
Thank you.
Community Board 7 Preservation Committee. We have an advisory role to the Landmarks Preservation Commission, giving input. Our job is to determine the appropriateness of any changes, alterations to either the individual landmark or the historic district. And so you're very welcome, and we are eager to hear what you've got that you're working on.
So
I'm one of the co-chairs.
great. Thank you guys for getting us on the agenda this month. Really appreciate it. We were a little new to this process, so we didn't realize that we had to go to you guys first. So I really appreciate that. I know I asked my architects to join as well, so they may be listening in the background. So I don't know if I'm going to need them for any part of this, but if so, I could probably have you guys put them up as well. Is that okay?
I'll do that now if just to save time later. Can you give me their names?
So you look for Chris Waltz or
Yep, he just
Mark
raised his hand.
Faubert.
Chris Waltz is now joining you. And what's the other one? I'm sorry, Mark Faubert. Okay, got him.
Excellent.
Okay, so the team is all on field.
Excellent. All right. So
And do you want to run your do you want to run your slides, or do you want me to pull up your slides for you?
I think it would be easier for you guys if that's all right.
Which?
If you guys could run them, which I
Very
think will
good.
be all right. And I may
So
just
shall I
pass
call
this
them up
off.
now?
Let me just, if I just make a quick introduction. I represent the Upper West Side ASC LLC. Mark and Chris are the architects that had designed the center. And our goal here is to have you guys review the changes to the storefront. To me, they're very limited, obviously, but I don't really understand the whole process as much as you guys obviously do. And I know that the architects were pretty clear in how they propose this to landmarks. So what we're going to do is just remove the existing door, which doesn't meet the code requirements for the space that we have. And it mirrors very similarly the storefronts that are on the 74th Street side of the Ansonia. So I don't know, Chris or Mark, whoever wants to take over once they put the slides up, you guys can go ahead and do that, and I'll be here in support.
I can give the commentary, Mark, and you can jump in if I miss anything. So thanks. It's nice to see everybody tonight. Thanks for having us. This project is a new endoscopy center, and it's actually located in the sub-basement of the Ansonia. So we had our work cut out for us with that. The only modification we're making to the exterior of the building is the entrance to our suite. It's an existing door, a French door. It probably shows up next on the next slide. So you can see it right in the bottom, in the middle. That's the existing door. Yes, thank you. And the problem with our door for our new project is that it doesn't meet accessibility requirements. The leaves are currently about, I think, 31.5 inches. So when they're open, there's just under 30 inches of clear. We need to have 32 inches clear to meet accessibility requirements. So we are proposing to remove the existing doors, and we're going to replace them. So those are, I'm sure you're all familiar with these. They're wood framed French doors and with single pane glazing. So we are going to be replacing these, or we're proposing to, with Hope's windows and doors. You're probably familiar with them from Jamestown, New York. They're pretty much the go-to for historic preservation for windows and doors. And they're steel framed, they're insulated glass, so double pane glass. And we're proposing essentially the same orientation. You can see it in the middle on the right there. That's what we're proposing. If you want to zoom in a little bit. There we go. So you can see one of the leaves is a little bit larger than the other. It's just about 1 inch larger, so that when it's open, we have the 32 inches clear. And then we needed to eliminate one row of the windows of the panes in order to put in the horizontal crash bars for the interior. But other than that, we've tried to maintain the look that's there as best as we could. And we are also proposing, and please, any questions as I'm talking, feel free to jump in. Yes?
Are those the mullions, are those wood or metal?
The existing are wood, the new are steel. Yes,
But
they're,
are they actually divides, or are they just those things that clip on?
I believe, Mark, can you comment on that? I'll have to take a quick look at the shop drawings.
Yes, they're true divided light.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, and the only, so actually, were there any other comments on the doors themselves? Because my last comment was about a canopy. So might as
I
well
have a
stick with the
question
doors.
These
Yes, sir.
are located on the south facade, is that it?
These are on the
North facade,
Or on the
north
North
facade.
North
facade,
facade.
It looks like
near the
north.
French Cafe.
Yeah, right next to Marguerite's Patisserie there.
On the north facade.
It's the
Yes.
it's on the north
Yeah.
side of the
It's sort of
Insonia.
opposite where the Fairway delivery entrance is.
Question on the, oh, sorry, Peter, are you still going?
It's okay. Go
Oh.
ahead.
Chris, on the door, is there also a proposal to put a banister or handrail down the center of that door?
Yes, yeah, can you see, it shows up here as well. Yeah, those are poles. Those are vertical poles in the center of the door.
That's a door pull, right? Not a handrail.
Right, that's a pole.
Pull.
And yeah, and then the inside has a crash bar, and we also have an automatic operator that's being put in the floor to operate that.
Oh, well,
If I may, it looks like here on the transom that you've got some sort of divider, that it's not a clear, not a complete replication of what was there before.
Yeah,
Or
if you
no.
want to go down to what's there, I can explain. There is a central panel there. It's basically a large mullion. If you just pull over to the left a little bit there, so you can see that's the center there is a little bit wider as well due to the way it's framed in the transom. So ours is a little bit wider, and it's really, we're trying to line up the glazing from the windows in the transom to the windows in the doors. And because the doors are slightly offset, we felt that this arrangement worked the best. We end up with that larger mullion in the middle.
Yeah. Is the mullion in the middle of the transom the same width as the middle frame for each, the interior frame of the door? So that, because it looks like over here, this element and the width of this element are the same. Is that what you're going for again?
They don't line up directly.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, of course they wouldn't. Yeah, so we tried to approximate it, and we ended up, I'm not sure, Mark, you might comment on that, if that was a construction issue from the manufacturer or if that was a design issue.
Yeah, in working through the drawings with Popes, they indicated they need a certain width for the structural integrity of the frame.
So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand if I hear you if I understand you correctly, these two, you're right, it's an inch and a half, give or take, an inch and a 16th difference in width between the two panels of the doors. Is this dead center, or does this follow the line of where these door pulls, if want for a better word, line up?
Mark, can you comment on that?
One of the doors is slightly larger than the other, and the width of the upper mullion is made a little wider for both structural reasons and also to capture kind of that discrepancy in the width of the lower two
Because it
doors.
looks like this is dead center. And I'm just wondering whether that'll look funny with the transom being divided evenly in half above, but the doors below being offset by a couple of inches. I don't know whether that reads visually or not. It's kind of hard to tell from the drawing.
Yeah, the way it's dimensioned on there, it is showing up as the top being equal and the bottom being offset. I think our feeling was that the offset is only just a hair over an inch, and with everything that's going on there, with the number of divided lights and the poles and everything else, and the canopy, that it'll be negligible. Is from a front, when you're looking at it straight on like this, it's one thing. You really never, I'm sure you guys know this, that you always see it at a perspective, because you're not seeing it dead straight on all the time. You're seeing it walking up from either side. So it's pretty much, we think that's going to be a wash from a visual standpoint.
And will the color be the same?
I have a question. Did you do that because you're not making changes to the upper portion? Or is the upper portion being changed like the doors?
The upper portion is being changed to the same material and the same manufacturer as the doors. I think the reasoning behind it was just to try to keep it to reflect the symmetry in the space there, and trying to sort of maybe hide it in the doors, because that, it's going to get lost in the thickness of that center mullion. That was the thought process.
I have a question, two questions actually.
All right.
The other entrance doors on the other facades, are they still wooden doors?
We actually submitted some pictures of other ones, and I'm not sure if they got in to this submission. Can you zoom out? Was there one more page? Because
I believe that the only ones that are remaining that are wood are the actual entrance into the Ansonia residential component. I think the dry cleaners next door is metal, as well as is the patisserie.
No, I think that one's wood.
Yeah, the patisserie is wood. The one that is wood. So on the left side, those are some examples of the adjacent storefronts that have been added in. So we've got that, which is the very traditional storefront, the first two there. That's the existing, which I believe that matches what we have now.
And that one's still wood.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I actually go there. That it definitely is.
Yep.
So what's the rationale behind not replacing the current wood door with a wood door that meets the ADA specification?
I think it's for a lot of it's more of the practical side of it, is durability, security, strength, those types of things. These doors are extremely tall, and we feel that over time there's going to be a lot of traffic, and we felt that the steel would be a better functional solution to this.
Okay.
You mentioned the automatic door opener. That's on the inside?
It's recessed into this floor slab, so you won't see that. It'll look just like a threshold.
I see. Okay.
And thank you for having that. I thought that sheet wasn't in there for some reason.
Thank yourself, because I got it from you. So
I knew we had it. I thought we sent you a different version. And so were there any more questions? I guess if you want to think of it about some more questions on the doors themselves, you can see in this image here on the right, sort of near that image, you can see the canopy that we're proposing, which is intended. The intention there is to match as closely as possible the adjacent one at the patisserie for color, size, and location.
Material?
It's a fabric. It's a fabric material. Bill,
Both. The patisserie is also fabric.
Yes, I believe the patisserie is fabric. Bill, I think, you're getting this one yourself. I don't believe we specified this.
No, that's in the contract. It's not Hopes that's doing it, but that's in contract with the GC.
Yeah,
or
so
the
that's-
GC, I should say.
That's the
Very
existing.
similar to that.
I think we put that one on them to say match what's there.
All right.
Okay,
Will there be writing on it?
Very similar to what is on the one at the patisserie. Yep.
This looks like the Centennial door at the Vatican. Is there anything that we can do about that?
Yeah, we'd love to put a big sign on that if you want us to.
Actually, I might go. A tastefully caricatured sign would be better than what's there now.
Yeah,
about
I
neon?
proposed that to the landlords, and they said there's no chance that'll get approved.
No, maybe even a Wile E. Coyote kind of perspective
Yeah.
drawing. Yeah.
We could do that for sure.
And can you explain something about the different colors? I mean, is it, there's the white and then there's a black door as well?
Well, the white is really, so where the canopy is, that's our door, and the white is really representing the glass. It's just the way that it rendered in this image.
No, I don't mean this. I mean in the earlier one of the other storefront that is not being changed where.
Oh, at the patisserie.
Yeah.
Yes, so they have kind of a grayish tone to theirs. We have a black, and the black was intended really to match with some of the interior elements as well as the fencing that's running around the outside there.
Oh, so your door will be black?
It will be black.
I think if
Is
you
that
scroll
debatable?
out, you can see there are other, that storefront in photo number 3 is also black. And then if you scroll down, there's another one that's also black. Most of the storefronts that are existing there now are the black. The cafe is the only one with the gray.
Yeah, but the gray is the original, isn't it?
It looks like
What
it's most,
are
it's
the
most
windows
greenish.
above? What are the windows above? Because I would completely rule out the Philistines who designed this one, for example. They don't get a vote.
I think that's fair.
Sorry if that's you guys, by the way, but I'm guessing it's not.
No,
Probably not. Is the existing black? I can't.
The existing is gray,
Yeah.
and I think
I don't remember what the windows are above, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's exactly like that one right there, the existing.
Got it.
Right. All right, I'm going to stop share for a second.
well, are we ready for comments? As
Yeah.
Well, do you want to do public testimony if there is any?
opposed-
I
Oh,
was just-
sorry.
But that's what my next question was. Is there anybody here for this?
Oh, Paige is with us. I'm sorry, Paige. I couldn't see you because I had the share screen on, but I'm promoting Paige to our colleague Paige Cowley to
Excellent.
panelists. So Paige, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Great. Hang on, I'll also unpicture myself so you know I'm here. There you go.
Yay.
All right,
And,
sorry about
and
that.
before
I
you
didn't-
start, Paige, I'll also say if anybody else in the community wants to be heard on this, there's about 8 people and attendees. If you would raise your hand, you do the little blue raise your hand thing. It's on participants button. Then we will know to call on you. But Paige, I think Kay is calling on you now.
Thank you. Well, first of all, this is one of my favorite buildings on the upper, and it's picturesque. For a minute you can, on that block, you can feel you're in Paris. And the only thing that I find so troubling is that while it's a lovely patisserie and you're making improvements, there's no cohesive follow through on the storefronts. Everything is its own criteria and appearance. And right down to the paint colors themselves. Each piece has its own characteristic, and this is an opportunity where we can, or I would have thought you might try to unite and follow exactly the same thing as probably the best of the what's left of the original doors. So I'm very troubled by my colleagues' comments about the different colors, the different materials, the different sizes of the lunettes, and the clear story. I'm having trouble getting on board with this, to be honest.
Okay, so we're only replacing the one door, right? That's clear, right? That because we showed a lot of examples of other doors that are existing that we are not touching, that are different colors, different styles, more contemporary. We have one single pair of French doors with the transom. I just wanted to be sure that we were all clear, because it sounded like you were talking about different colors and different things. We only have the one that's the different color to the ones next to it, but it's the same color as some of the monumental doors.
But I would think that rather than try to create a different variations on a theme, that you would try to make the patisserie, this is going into the patisserie. I did come.
No, no,
Oh,
This
No,
no.
it's
is
next
not
door to
going-
the,
No,
This
Do
is
with
a
a
completely
patisserie.
separate store.
yes.
Yes,
So all the more reason that this should try to follow one of the other styles more uniformly.
well,
Those
you
are my
don't
thoughts
want this to
anyway.
follow the patisserie. You want to
Yep.
change the patisserie, I think.
Possibly, but that's not up for grabs right now.
No.
I have a few
you can't do it.
questions.
So this is the wrong.
I have a few questions.
Madge, do you need the screen, the drawing up?
Yes, I do. I have some questions because I went by this afternoon, and it looks like there are several doors that are going to be worked on, not just this one. There were other doors in the lineup that looked like something was going to happen to them as well. They're in terrible condition. And I'm wondering if any of those doors are part of your project. Number
No,
one.
they're not. It's just this one entrance that goes into a little small waiting area that's about 500 square feet, and you take an elevator down 2 floors, and that's where the space is. So this is the only piece.
Is there anything to preclude the color similar to the Cafe Margot so that they don't look so metal? They might look a little less different and less metallic if they were black.
That was a choice we made. I suppose that's an option we could consider. I think there's an availability in that color, if that's what you're asking.
Yes, thank you.
So I don't know if it's useful to anybody, but I did a quick look for the existing color of the windows above. And I saw this picture, which seems to suggest that the windows above are a darker color.
Yes.
It does.
Yep.
Yes, it does.
I don't know if that's useful, but I
Quite
would-
beautiful.
okay. Anyway, we'll put the other screen back up again.
Can you just remind us the reasoning behind increasing the size of each door by a half inch?
Well,
Or decreasing the glass panels?
Yeah, the existing doors are equal, but that's always a problem with French doors, as they seem to. They're the same size, but neither one of them meets accessibility requirements. So in order to maintain French doors, the look of French doors, we had to make one a little bit larger by about 1 1/16 inches, so just over an inch, in order to make it the correct accessible width. Another option would have been to go with a single door that would have been in some kind of an infill, or a single door that was 5 feet wide. that spanned the whole thing, or sliders or something like that. But we felt this was the most authentic and the most paid the most respect to the existing building.
I don't know if it's of use, so I'll make this real quick. Looking at this slide, and I'll enlarge it a little bit. Just confirm for me that I'm reading this correctly, that this is the existing facade. Over here is the TD Bank. This is Cafe Margot. This is the dry cleaner. This is actually a recess into an areaway that has a built out entrance with a very modern 1970s door frame, like an aluminum door frame. And then this is your space. Do I have that all correct?
I believe that's right.
And then this is
One of those is the dry cleaners.
This is the dry cleaner here.
Yeah.
And this is that blank metal thing.
Yeah.
That's correct.
It's an infill. Yeah. I think that's right.
Which unfortunately is like at right on the same plane as the wood, rather the stone around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments, thoughts, questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. Okay, I kind of feel about this the way I felt about the vault lights at the Apthorpe, but given the fact that it's going to be changed, all things being equal, without a compelling reason such as impossibility, I would prefer, and I think it's appropriate, to replace these doors with wooden doors in a color similar to the patisserie.
To that gray?
Yeah, that's my opinion.
No, I can't agree with that.
What was that, Peter?
No, I wouldn't agree with that. I think because there's one bad apple in there, that the other one shouldn't join it. You know, I think to change the patisserie is more the goal, if possible, but that's not before us. So I would go with the doors the way they're being proposed and hope.
Why is the patisserie a bad apple?
Well, the patisserie has got this very whitish color for the doors, for the windows.
And all the other window frames and the door frames are
The patisserie
black.
is the patisserie is the original door. Is that not right?
No.
I don't know that we know that one way or the other. It's certainly been there a
Okay.
long time, but whether it's original, no one
Yeah.
has opined.
I think we should go ahead with this and make changes or propose changes elsewhere as they come to us. Keeping everything the dark color. That's the building is basically, when you look up at all the windows, they're all the same. It's quite beautiful. And the base should be very similar.
Peter, what about the material? Wood versus metal?
Well, I think it's the color is more an issue than the
Okay.
material.
All right.
If I could ask a question of the architects, would a change to wood from metal have an effect on the functionality of the doors vis-a-vis their ADA compliance? Or is that something that's just a choice that, you know, can be made one way or the other?
I think we'd have to look into that because, you know, we have the auto operator on there for people who, you know, who need to use that. And I don't know if if a wood door would have the rigidity that you would need with the auto operator to operate it. And I definitely would have concerns for the owner about longevity and replacement and upkeep and maintenance, because you would, if it's wood, you're going to be painting it extremely often, much more so than you would metal.
Yeah.
And also, we're required to meet the energy code. The steel doors the storefront is thermally broken. So it's made for to meet the current energy codes as well with the insulated glasses.
Okay.
Aye.
We vote?
All right.
Is there anybody, let's just make sure there's nobody in the public who wants to be heard on this. If that's okay, Kay?
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody in the public who wants to be heard on this, please raise your hand. Your virtual hand, it's in participants under attendees. You should see a raise hand function. Oh, there's somebody who's calling in by phone from San Francisco. Raising your hand is *9 on your phone if you want to be heard on this. I don't see any hands, Kay, so.
Okay.
So.
I see Doug
Okay.
has a question or a comment.
Well,
Doug Kleiman.
You take it
so
away.
this may be more trivial, but I think it's apropos. And I, by the way, as I said early in the meeting, I happen to have this background as a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's not in a way of in favor of or against. It just happens to be my background. But I did grow up on this block, and I'd like to note that this area of the building, the north facade, and I'm not sure if it's this exact door, but it's one of the three. This was the main entrance to the Continental Baths Club, which was where Bette Midler sang and Barry Manilow was her piano player. Then later became the Plato's Retreat, which was, so this is the actual space. And I don't know if on your second lower level, if it's actually where the pool was, but I do know that the pool was recently excavated and removed. So I just thought it would be.
This is that entrance.
It is that, it is the same entrance, yes?
It will be the same entrance, yep. And it is, the pool is actually on the garage level, which would be the basement. We're below that, but the actual pool, physical pool itself was in the space that we're in now.
Right, and I happen to know, I just by coincidence spoke to one of the owners and who said that they sort of discovered it by surprise when they were removing debris out of a room. The contractor was digging down and down, didn't realize that there was a pool. They couldn't figure out why it kept going below grade, and then he discovered the famous pool with the logo from Plato's Retreat. And this was only months ago. So I just thought it would be apropos to discuss. This is the actual space. There's a lot of history there. And it's where Bette Midler and Barry Manilow got their start and lots of other things that happened years later.
I actually got to see inside that pool. It was really,
now it's colonoscopy,
really
right?
Colonoscopy.
Makes total sense.
Let's vote.
Yeah, I guess it's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, certain continuity there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Make a resolution.
We voting?
On what?
We need to figure out what we're voting for here.
Approval.
Well, so there's two things you want to talk about, right, Kay? You want to talk about the door and all of its, permutations, and also the canopy. I wouldn't want
The
to
canopy.
lose track of that too. Okay.
All right. Should we try an approval resolution for the door and the canopy?
Yes.
Okay.
So somebody called. Are we calling the question?
Yeah, come on.
Okay. So I guess all in favor. I'll do it. Okay. All in favor of that resolution, which is to approve both. So I see Josh. And Madge. And Peter, that's a yes. I don't see Kay. Do we lose Kay?
Kay's frozen right now.
Okay.
Froze up.
All right. Well, I guess we'll suspend the vote for a sec because we certainly need the committee chair.
What happened?
I think Kay, there's Kay. Okay.
I'm really sorry. I told you this is a borrow computer, and I may be sorry I borrowed this one and not some other.
So we were voting on a resolution to approve, so I have 3 in favor, and Kay, we don't have your vote.
I'm in favor.
So that's 4. And I don't see any other hands. So now let's take the no's. Who's a no on this? So Susan, if you put your hand down. We'll do committee first, Paige, if that's okay. I see Doug as a no, and I don't see any other hands. Abstaining,
I'm abstaining, Mark.
Jay is an abstain. And no one's ineligible, right? So from the committee, that's 4 to 1 to 1 to 0. So it would pass. Non-committee board members, that would be Paige. So let's go in favor. In favor? I see none. Opposed? Paige. Abstaining, that would be me. And I don't think there's anybody else, is there? Oh, Doug, I'm sorry, there you are. Where are you, Doug?
Abstain.
Abstain. So from a non-committee, it would be 0 to 1 to 2 to 0. But it does carry. So this would be referred to full board on January 5th.
Are they calendared?
Yeah, let's find out. Chris or Mark, are you guys calendared at LPC at this point?
Bill, do you know? I thought we were.
I do believe we are, yep.
Do you know the date?
The January 5th date.
Okay, we're going to ask you to move that date at least a week. There are times in which LPC, where we are comfortable with a committee action going to LPC before it gets a full board vote. Kay, I would urge that the committee that we not use, both because it's a split vote. Effectively, it's a 4 to 2 vote, and because it's an iconic building in our Upper West Side fabric. I would encourage you to postpone that so that you have a full board vote, which may reinforce the approval or it may reverse it. We had one of our committee actions reversed at full board this past month. So I would encourage, in this particular instance, because of the nature of the building and the nature of the application, that we not only rely on, in effect, 6 or 8
This is an individual landmark, isn't it?
It's an individual landmark as well as, and it's iconic, even if it weren't, and it's part of the West End Avenue Historic District as well, I believe. So we will be asking LPC not to hear this, and it would be great if you would join us in that. And then we'll get a full board vote, and then you could, because the problem is that January 5th, our meeting is in the evening. Your public hearing would be during the afternoon, so you would not have the opportunity to have a full board vote. And we really think that this is one area where that would be necessary. So with that, Kay, anything else on this one?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Mark, just real quick, do we have to do anything with respect to that date, or is that just something that you guys tell the full board?
We will tell, well, on January 5th, you're welcome to come. The chairs of the committee will present the resolution, not the applicant. It is not a bad idea to be present in case there are questions or in case you want to help present or help answer questions or even make the case for why you've made the choices that you have. So you're welcome to do it. You're not required to do it.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you all for hearing our case. Appreciate it very much. And stay
All right.
safe.
Good luck.
Thanks for being here. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Moving right along. Next one I have is I think it's 456 Columbus. Is that correct? The
451.
451.
451. Okay. My one looks like a 6.
So that's Huntley Gill, our friend from the Columbus Avenue bid, among other things. Welcome to CB7. He should be joining us any second here. What happened?
Yep.
There he is. All right. Mr. Gill, welcome to CB7. Why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us if there's anybody else that should join you on this presentation. There he is.
No, I am alone, alas.
Great. I'll pull up the slides. Let's see. Give me one
Hi,
second.
Paige.
Okay.
Yep.
So there are several elements to this. This is, can we make this full screen so it's a little bit easier to read? There are some big drawings.
Okay, let me do my best here.
And you can go to the next screen.
Actually, no, it's not letting me do that. I don't know if it's the nature of the.
Well,
No, it's not letting me do it. All right.
Struggle along. You can go to the next page. This is a building between 81st and 82nd Street. You see the location here. It wraps around the corner. It's 3 tenement houses. One is the north half of the block on Columbus between 81st and 82nd. The other 2 houses are marched down west 82nd Street. So we can go to the next one. Here you see marked in red is the area where we're going to be restoring all the brownstone on the facade, and we're proposing a storefront master plan. And also there's some handicap ramps that are being proposed on the areas in blue. That's a separate staff approval of brownstone restoration. Unfortunately, at this point, probably the client is going to paint it, which I don't like, but I'm not in control of that. There are also 2 sets of railings on the stoops at 78 and 76. We'll look at pictures of those. They were replaced without a permit, and that happened obviously because they were very low. And I'm told by my client, I didn't know about this. I didn't even notice it. They were very low, perhaps 18 inches. And one night, somebody probably in his cups tumbled into the area way below. So they were quickly replaced. We'll take a look at those. We can go to the next. So here's the designation photo. You can see that these storefronts had sort of a metal band above them, the sign band, where there must have been brownstone before. No, God knows when that's disappeared. It's quite a while ago at any rate. And most of the storefronts remain as they were at designation. Next. This is looking around the corner at 82nd Street. You can see the storefront on the corner there, and the door to 80, which does not have a stoop, and then the other 2 doors, which do have stoops. And if you look hard, you can see the railings that were replaced. They're very low. They line up with that band that goes underneath the sills under the windows. They were small and decorative. We can go to the next. These are tax photos. Obviously, the 1980 on the right and the 1940 on the left. And you can see that the storefronts were, if you take a look at the signs, what we're guessing is that you can see this sort of small cornice element that comes across the 3 buildings. And we're guessing that that continued underneath these wooden signs, and that at some point it was just scalped off. We could go to the next. This is more of a close-up, so you can get a better kind of look at how these wooden signs are just propped up. And again, it's interesting, if you look at the penultimate store down the street, there's sort of a wooden frame there with no sign on it. There's no evidence at all of what was going on there now left. It's all just, it goes back to construction behind it. Next. More tax photos around the corner showing the L, and some nice cars. And you can barely, unfortunately, of course, as it always happens with the tax photos, either the guy with the cigarette is standing right in front of the element that you want to see, or somebody's parked his Pontiac right in front of the element that you want to see. And that's what's happened here with the railings.
And the Columbus Avenue L.
Right, and the 9th Avenue elevated, exactly, and the Endicott behind. Next. And this is the pretty pathetic situation we find ourselves in. Glenn Siegel, who owns the building, says, Huntley, I probably have the ugliest storefronts on Columbus Avenue, and I'd probably agree with him. One day, those metal sign bands, it was right around Christmas, I think a year ago, fell off. And Glenn called me and said, can you come up urgently? And I said, yes. And then he turned to me and said, did you arrange this so that I have to fix it? We're going to do a master plan. The only storefront that we plan to replace right now is the mailbox store in the corner, which is a pretty horrible storefront. The others aren't quite as bad. And we can probably live with those for the meantime. You can also see that there's a small step up, some 6 to 7 inches, all the way along here on top of a vaulted sidewalk. We're proposing here metal ramps without railings to deal with ADA. Eventually, I think what we'll hope to do is to repair the vaults underneath, replace the sidewalk, and get rid of those ramps, which is why we're doing something that's really a temporary reversible intervention. And we'll just slope the sidewalk right up. We can go to the next one. Oh, wait, well, actually, I guess it doesn't matter. These are just details. If you just want to flip through them, it's store by store. You can see the bad condition of what was above. And these we're replacing, you'll see that there's this sign band in some of these stores where it says Schweitzer linen. We're not going to have any sign bands in that frame at all. You'll also see that the windows are jammed, the existing storefronts are jammed right up against the plane of the building, which we're going to be changing. So you can just flip to the next.
Oops. Not sure what I just did, but let's try this. Okay.
And then next. If you hit Control L, this may fix this for you.
I tried it. It's not having any of it.
Control L doesn't work.
It does not. No, I tried everything. I tried all the tricks in my tool bag, and I don't.
You can see where at this point where the brownstone, there's a line, slightly different paint color here. That's where the project ends. The master plan and the restoration of the brownstone is brownstone goes to that line, and you can see just sort of a nice broad picture of the 82nd Street facade where you can see kind of the height of the existing railings, which do come up closer to being to code. Next. You'll have to zoom out here. Well, I guess you don't have to. This is the demolition. You can see how the existing storefronts are actually set right up to the front plane of the building. And if you scroll down, you can see that they're being inset back to their original location, which is slightly inset. Now, all of the doors are in swings. The spaces luckily are small enough that we can do that, so you don't have to have any insets for the doors. They can all be flush, which of course is much preferred in retail. Next. Elevations, existing above, proposed below. We're providing here in store number 3, which is actually part of the linen store. We're providing for the fact that if it ever is turned into 2 stores, that we could put a door back in there. We won't be in the meantime, although he's struggling, so who knows what's going to happen with that. Could you scroll down just a little bit? I want to see if there's any details on the ramps.
Do you have this up on your screen? Would it be easier if I just let you put it up yourself?
If you'd prefer, sure, I can do that.
Let's do that because I'm not. This is not working so great. So
hold on 1 second.
So you should now have the ability to share your screen.
Sorry. Does this do it for you?
Right now, I'm not seeing your screen, but maybe it's just taking a second. If not, I'll go back and continue where I was. But
all right. Well, it's up on my screen, so I don't know what.
So there should be a green button at the bottom of your screen that says "Share Screen."
Hold on 1 second. I'm seeing, oh, here we are.
There we go.
Great,
Okay, now you've got the controls.
great. Sorry, this is taking so long.
You're doing great.
You can see in the plans here, these are the ramps that are really without railings. They're ramps and steps, so it's a minimal intervention. We made them as small as we can. We hope that that's a temporary thing, and we don't know if any of these stores will choose to put them in, but we wanted to put it in the application anyway. Here again is the elevation. You can see that what we're planning is to put this brownstone element that continues, that will replicate from 82nd Street, this small cornice, continue it all the way across. And then we would put aluminum signboards in this space above each store. Retailers love signs. Sometimes I'm not sure why they think they need them so much, but the signboards would match the color of the cornice above. This is turning the corner. You can see we'd be replacing this one light here on 82nd Street. And then this is where the line would go between the restoration of the brownstone as brownstone, and at least right now, brownstone restored as paint. If its occupancy rate goes up, we might talk him into changing that. That's not going to happen soon anyway. Here are a couple of details. You can see the storefront being inset so that we can get a view of the existing. There's a nice brownstone reveal here that goes into the storefronts. We would take out, as we replace the storefronts, we will take out any gypsum board or whatever there is on the inside so that you could actually read that all the way through. Here's a rendering. Again, the signboards would match the color of the cornice. The storefronts are aluminum, very simple, flat black, powder coated. We'll also be putting in, replacing, there's a rather ugly kind of just metal gate here that goes down to a rear yard where there's a storage tenant. So it's used. And we replace that with simple glass door that matches the existing doors of the storefronts in frosted glass. Another rendering. There's a signboard missing in this rendering. There'd be another matching signboard there. And you can see here the handicap ramps. Another rendering here, you can see this. It's not drawn correctly. It actually aligns here. It's drawn correctly in the drawings, but the rendering wasn't updated. So this aligns here with this mullion. A detail. This is of the center store. A few more details. You can see here's this photo here. There's that nice kind of brownstone reveal tucking back into the brick, which is what we want to have people see again. Here's some others. We're doing full height glass, which is what you need these days in retail. God knows Columbus Avenue needs everything it can get. A lot of these storefronts have been approved by the commission that are full height and with in-swing doors. These are just some examples going up and down the avenue. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. Our philosophy is, and it has been since we advocated for the creation of the historic district on the Upper West Side strongly over the opposition of a lot of our clients. Our position has always been, as at Madison Avenue, is that the thing that we want to preserve very carefully is the frames of these storefronts, which tend to be of historic material, but that the storefronts themselves were always relatively fungible. They were wood, they died, they were replaced, they were changed with tenants. And modern retailing really smiles upon having glass go down to the curb so that you can actually see what's being sold more than any sort of storefront. This is going on to the legalization, which is these are the darling little railings that were unfortunately replaced after a dramatic tumble, as I said earlier. And there were choices. This is what the client popped in, and I sort of didn't even notice that they've been replaced. They wouldn't be my choice, but I find them rather inoffensive. The staff at Landmarks thinks they're rather inoffensive. One of the alternatives would have been to bring it up to code, is what the commission likes or staff likes, is to leave these and then put kind of rather clunky modern rails on the inside. I happen to think, although I wouldn't have designed it this way, I happen to think this is probably a nicer solution in a way, because I just find it less offensive than those modern rails reimposed on stuff. You can tell this was taken around Halloween. These stoops will be restored as brownstone as part of the staff approved work. It's all in very bad shape. You can see the horrible patching that's been done. All the iron work would be stripped and cleaned and repainted. So that's basically it.
Great, thank you. So before us, for our input, is the legalization of the railings, and what other element? The
legalization of the railings is the only thing that's going, other than the master plan for the storefront, going before the commission.
Okay. Questions from committee or comments?
I'm not the committee, but the master plan for the storefront seems to be a vast improvement over what's there now. And it seems to be consistent with what's along the avenue elsewhere.
I agree with that. All right.
Huntley, Mr. Gill, if you would end your screen share so we can see if there's anybody in the public who wants to be heard on this. I can't see that screen if you're sharing your screen. There we go. So if anybody in the public wants to be heard on this, now's the time to raise your little blue hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised, but
Okay.
Oh no, that's a panelist, that's Paige. Okay, so I don't see any attendees raising hands, so I'll leave it to you for the next part.
Okay, so Paige, did you have thoughts?
Just one. First of all, Huntley, congratulations. This is such an improvement. And the way you've managed to reunite old and new is, I think, very admirable. And I think this is going to be a great addition. My only question, it's really a question, for the restoration of the brownstone components, are they going to be replaced in kind, or are you planning to use something like a yawn or Kime type brownstone loving paint?
You mean on the avenue?
Yeah.
No, on the avenue is going to be brownstone cementitious surface to match. We'll save everything that we can and only patch where we have to. The guy who's doing it is a guy that I've used before on several projects. So he's my second favorite. My favorite isn't available for about 2 years, but he's very good, and I've been very pleased with his work. And and God knows that needs it. It's an embarrassment thing.
An Italian, by the way, an Italian name?
No, he's Abdul Malek.
Oh,
he's done a lot of work on the Upper West Side and a lot of stuff.
There are only 2 people on the West Side that do this, and you have
the other guy I like is the Portuguese guy from the Ironside. I've forgotten his name now. It slips my mind.
Hunty, right?
Yes.
Hunty. Yeah, that's what I was
His
thinking.
English I find totally incomprehensible, and he's constantly inviting me to dinner.
I know. He likes to have coffee. Anyway, I'm all happy with your approach. I think this is wonderful.
Well, coming from you, Paige, that's pretty good.
I don't know. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Doug, was that?
Yeah, that's me. I'm non-committee. First of all, hello, Huntley. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Huntley's a great captain.
There's my boat behind me, you see.
Oh, yes, there it is. There it is. So it was just a point of clarification. You had, and I believe it's outside of the purview of this vote, but just quickly on the ramps, the ADA ramps, the metal steel ramps, you had said something about sort of being an interim step, and then later on it would maybe, because I see that it is an elevation from south to north.
Yeah, we're designing them because to deal with the ADA issue if we need to, and but what I'd love to do eventually is that last flag that runs all the way along the building has a vault underneath it, and so obviously we all know that once you start, and it's in very bad condition, Eventually, what I'd like to do is replace the whole sidewalk from the curb, simply increase the slope slightly, do away with the need from the ramps altogether, and that's the long-term plan.
Thank you. That's what thank you very much.
Good. Are we ready to try a resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, this would be a resolution to approve legalization of the railings
And the master plan, right?
in the master plan. All right.
Rail in the master plan.
Hmm?
We're voting on the rail in the master plan, is that right?
Rail in the master plan.
Okay.
Okay. While I still have a computer that works, we'll go through, according to my screen. Madge, how do you?
Yes.
Yes. Josh?
Yes.
Okay. Peter?
Yes.
Okay. Susan?
Yes.
And Doug McGowan?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. All right.
That's everybody.
Everybody. Seven.
That's 7 to 0 to 0 to 0.
Okay. And non-committee board, Paige?
Yes.
Great. And Doug?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
Okay. We have a winner.
Wow, you are very nice people. I like you all.
Thanks for jumping in with the technical aspect. I don't know why it didn't come through the right way this time. So it's for the minutes, it's
yeah.
7 to 0 to 0 to 0 and 3 to 0 to 0 to 0.
Great.
Long live the John Harvey. For those of you who haven't
Yes.
been on the boat, it's a fantastic boat. The old fireboat.
Thanks all.
All right, one question. Are you on the calendar, the LPC?
Oh, thanks.
Yes,
Thanks.
I think it's the 10th or the 12th. I've forgotten now.
Great.
It'll be the 12th. Yeah,
Well,
that's
Thanks a lot.
perfect.
okay, great. Good. All right, here we go. Next one I have marked is 140 Riverside Drive.
That's the one for which I do not have plans.
Let's
Looks
see if
like
anybody's here.
Julie, let me promote to panelist, Julie Calbearer or Calberet. I'm not sure how to pronounce, excuse me.
And I think that's the Normandy, right? Or is it?
Is it the Normandy?
Yes, yes, is the Normandy.
Wow. Oh, I'm really sorry I didn't get the plans for this then.
You don't have the plans?
I do not. I'm hoping you have them on your computer.
Is the person here?
We're here. I'm sorry.
I went
Okay.
through all of my emails and I see several emails back and forth between you and the office, but none of them contain the plans. Did anybody else receive the plans among the committee? No.
I did not.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. We're quite sure.
Confirmed that she received them.
Who did?
Jessie.
Jessie confirmed that she received them. But,
And are you not at a computer that has them?
okay, well, let me see.
Because you can now share your screen. So if you can call them up, then we can proceed.
Okay.
Can you bring up the PDFs?
Hold on. All right, hold on, everybody.
Thank you. I noted that at the top of the meeting, but maybe too early.
So drawing. Can you go to that mode for me?
That one?
No, hold it. I do go to create drawings.
Just for the record, while we're in a pause, some people apparently think it's impolite to shut off your video. So I just want you to know that I think it would be even more polite for you to watch me devour a sandwich during
I don't know.
during
agree.
certain intervals at the meeting.
I will be doing the same shortly, so I agree.
What kind of sandwich? I'm starving, Jay. What are you eating?
Exactly.
All right, guys.
I'm eating a tuna, lettuce, and tomato on a very nice crisp roll.
Sounds delicious.
However, I'm sure it's not a pretty sight.
Thank you, Jay. We appreciate it.
All right. Could you explain to us how to share?
Sure. Look at the bottom. If you move your cursor to the bottom of your screen,
All
you
right.
should see a green button that says share screen. And then that should activate a window that'll show everything, including pictures of the grandkids that is up on your computer. Yeah, you got it. There you go.
All right.
So now the only thing is, there it is. Okay, great.
Beautiful.
You're all set.
So, so I'm just trying, how do I get to the next page when I have to go?
Either try page, are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
All right, then try the left arrow.
Oh,
the
I
right
see
arrow.
now, hold on. If I just scroll, that'll work too, right?
It will, but you'll have to align each time, but go ahead. There you go.
All right. I'm really sorry, everybody. I thought we were all set with this.
No worries.
All right.
What is your name?
My name is Julie Calver, and my colleague here is Bill Torino, and we
Can
are
you just spell your name for me? Calver?
K-A-L, B as in boy, E-R-E-R.
Thank you.
Do we need to promote Phil in order to? Can we hear? All right, well, why don't you go ahead, and if you need
Phil
help.
will just sit here with me, so.
Oh, he's there in the same room? Perfect, okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll shut up.
All right, so showing you the first page here. This is a rendering of the building. This is the Normandy on 86th Street, between 86 and 87. It's an individual landmark. It's a 1939 Emery Roth building. And we are doing an apartment renovation on the top floor in the area that is between the two towers facing Riverside Drive. And it became clear to us, and I will go through these drawings and show you, but that that changes had been made on that top floor that were then encaptured in the window master plan of 1992 for landmarks that actually make it look now like it's an unfinished elevation, and that we might have an opportunity to combine windows to, I mean, obviously it's better for my client, but also better for the look of the building. So I'll take you through it here. This was the original rendering. You can see that very top floor in between the two towers is the one that we're looking at. And I'm going to skip through the plans and we'll just go right to this sheet here. The left-hand drawing here is the existing, what it looks like today. And if you look at that very top floor again, in between the two towers, you can see that it's a mishmash of windows in terms of the opening sizes. There's a combination of wide windows, which are very typical for the Normandy, but then there are also smaller windows, which was typical up at this level originally. Now, what happened was that sometime before the 1992 plan, on the far left on that upper level, the two large windows that is a neighbor's apartment, and those windows were combined. And so what originally was a series of singular windows, casements with an occasional wider window, all of a sudden became, now it's sort of off balance because you have these larger openings on the left, and our windows are the smaller ones that are on the right.
The next sheet down.
And then if you look, yeah, we'll go to it'll be clear in the next sheet, but let me just say on the right-hand side here, the right-hand drawing is what we are proposing, including using the master plan for the windows. So you can see at that top level what the neighbors will have to do when they make their changes. Okay, this might be a little easier to understand. The very top, it shows the original windows. Now again, the opening that we're talking about making will be on the right-hand side next to the terrace door. But if you just look at this whole center section together, the very top shows the singular windows from 1939. And then the next drawing down shows the approved master plan. And you can see, so this is right now what's on the master plan. And it's off balance. We have the bigger openings on the left and in the middle, but all the smaller openings on the right. The next drawing down shows what is existing today. And then the very last drawing shows what we are proposing, which is to make a new masonry opening that encaptures those last two singular windows into one unit that matches the other units. Now, I should say this is actually, it's a few inches wider than the others. It's 6 inches wider to be exact. But I really don't think you can tell the difference. And I think that overall, it's a much more harmonious look to it than leaving the singular windows by themselves. So I think actually it's closer to the original intention that the architects had on the building than what is existing right now. And that's why we're proposing it.
You mind if I ask one quick question for clarification?
Sure.
We're talking about the windows at the right of the rendering. And if you go all the way to the bottom, if you look at the last rendering that we're focused on, and then you move to the left, it appears the two windows all the way at the left are also changed in this rendering.
Yes, the very last one is showing the new opening that we're proposing, but it's also showing what the master plan has planned for the left-hand ones.
Thank you.
This would be the eventual goal, is to get this whole elevation this way. Of course, that's not in our application, but.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And where is this visible from other than New Jersey? Like, where would I have to be?
You can scan down on Riverside Drive and look up at it. The left-hand photographs shows you, when you're standing on Riverside, just really looking up how far away that top level is. But you do see it. You do notice that there are large openings and smaller openings.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And the right hand is just it's blown up.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Questions from the committee or others?
Yeah, I can't. So if Ms. Calver, if you could end your share screen. There should be a red button at the top of the page. There you go. Now we can see the Brady Bunch here. And if any folks from the public want to be heard. So now's the time to raise your little blue hand if you want to be heard. And I'm not seeing any hands, Kay, so back to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Mark. All right. Anybody have further questions or comments about this project? It's fairly straightforward.
I think it's a reasonable solution to try to balance the two, the north and the south facade or portions of the facade facing west. I should say.
Going to eat in the back or here?
Yeah, well, I think it's okay.
All righty. Thanks, Peter. Other thoughts?
Looks like Paige has her hand up.
Paige?
Thanks. I was just curious on the sequential movement through time. I agree. I think, Doug, your question about the symmetry for the apartment that is not renovating and the one that is. One of the things that I think struck me was the fact that of the alignment to the apartment below. And my only concern is that the paired windows seem to fit that module better than the expanded window, which would mean that maybe in the future, the other apartment on the other end wouldn't work as well. So I think the concern I have is the permanence of this one. There seems to be a lot of changes. And I just wonder if that triple window, even at 6-inch increase, is really warranted. Could the applicant say what is the room that's behind that, that's driving the larger window? I'm assuming it's the living or dining room?
Yes, it's a living room. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, the openings to the left of the neighbors, those openings have already been created. And Landmarks put those larger openings into their master plan. So those will always be there.
Okay, so those are the overriding, that's
Yeah.
the party that you're following. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paige.
If I
Anything
could
else?
jump in. Yeah,
Yes,
if I
Mark?
could just jump in quickly. The goal of making it more symmetric is a good one, I think, even though both as originally designed and as approved in the master plan, there is an imbalance that will remain because of the way that the single windows don't, they sort of move to the right on each side rather than, middle and then outer. But I think that adding this additional opening is an improvement, so I would vote for this. And I don't think there's any way to solve that other than completely rebuilding that entire facade, which if somebody had a mind to do it, it would be great, but that's not what's before us. So I think this is still an improvement, so I would vote yes.
All right, anything else, or are we ready to take a vote? Okay, okay, so this would be a resolution to approve. And once again, I'll go through and ask Madge.
Yes.
All right, and Josh?
Yes.
And Peter?
Yes.
And Doug McGowan? Okay, that's a yes. Susan?
Yes.
Okay, Jay?
Yes.
Great. And I'm a yes. Who did I miss?
That's everybody, and it's 7-0 to 0 to 0.
Okie dokie. Great. And non-committee board members, Paige?
Yes.
Great. And Doug?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right. Okay, and do you have a date with Landmarks?
We do. We have a January 12th date.
And 12, that's good. All right, see you there.
Thank you. Sorry for the mix-up.
Thank you.
Okay, glad we could do it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. All right. I see 2 more to go. Well, yes, because the next one that's been officially on our radar is the 375 Riverside Drive. Should we do that one?
Okay. I'm promoting Michelle, it looks like Dahlhoff. Pardon my.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Sure can. There you are.
Hi.
Welcome.
I have to apologize in advance. My office is across the street from Macy's and it is very loud out there. There's very frequent renditions of New York, New York. So hopefully it goes in my favor.
We'll all get our Yankee hats.
Well, I'm a Mets fan, so don't hold it against me.
I don't know. Okay, so tell us about some windows.
Yes, may I share my screen?
Yeah, you want to do that? Go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Do you guys see for presenter mode or?
That looks good to us.
Looks good.
Okay. I'm not sure which version you can see. It's always kind of funky. My name is Michelle Dahlhoff. I work at Wisjani Elsner, also known as WJE Engineers and Architects, and I'm here on behalf of 375 Riverside Drive Owners Incorporated. This is I'll advance from my slides and tell you more. Okay, we proposed a window master plan that the goals are to unify the building appearance and reestablish some fenestration proportions that have been lost over many years. Pay homage to the building's historic detailing through reintroducing some details and provide the modern service needs for the building. This proposal includes introducing brick-to-brick replacement windows throughout with new aluminum frame windows with a double hung operation and the restoration of some paired window detailings. 375 Riverside Drive is located within the Morningside Heights Historic District. This is obviously newly designated, so a lot of the historic fabric has been lost up until this point. Here, 110th Street.
I'm sorry, just remind me, it's on the south side of 110th Street?
It is on the south side, yes.
Okay, that's us. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Oh yes, it's just at the edge of the community district.
Yeah,
I noticed that this morning.
you just got us, yes. We just got you. All right.
So it is a tan brick building with some terracotta detailing. It is a Renaissance revival, but overall the facade is very subtle and very muted. Here's the 1940s tax photo. Generally, the facade has remained very intact with very minor modifications. The one thing is, though, that the original windows were 6/1 and sometimes a 4/1 in these. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor in these paired windows, which I'll discuss more later. The original windows, though, do have very narrow frames and very small muttons from what we can tell, but we don't have a lot of information or historic photos beyond this. Come the 1980s tax photo, you can see that almost all of the divided light configurations have been lost. So here's a close-up view, and this is very consistent with what is in place now at the facade. So we have typically black aluminum frame, double hung windows, 1/1. These windows, however, like many, come in a lot of different ages, proportions, and different levels of historic fabric intact. Some places the panning is very deep to cover the existing frames, where other places it is more shallow. There are varying depths throughout the single units and the paired windows throughout. There are some isolated areas where prior to the designation of the district that there were single pane tilt turn windows introduced. Here is the currently proposed elevations for the street facades. This would be the north elevation at 110th and the west elevation at Riverside Drive, introducing double hung 1/1s throughout. The off-street elevations are also very consistent. No historic fabric other than some wood frames, wood perimeter jam conditions left, but there a lot of the existing mullions have also been modified. Here are the proposed elevations, also proposing 1/1 double hung aluminums throughout the off-street facades. So although that most of the windows are single units in punched openings, there are two types of paired windows. There is these generally proportionate paired windows that are at the off streets, but on the Riverside Drive facade, there is a pairing that we've referred to as the Maids room pairing. I believe this was a service space with a accompanying bathroom. So there is one line on Riverside Drive that has this unique, unusual pairing with the very, very slender window. It's about 12 inches, and sometimes that's ambitious depending on the existing panning conditions. And we're maintaining these throughout the proposal, but they are to be noted as one of those more unique configurations.
They go up and down that whole line?
Yes, just one line at Riverside Drive. Here's actually an interior view where you can see one of the configurations, but they do vary throughout. You can see the current condition of this mullion. Some have been more severely modified than others. On the left-hand side here, you can see a mullion condition on an off-street facade where the historic mullion, the wood framing and obviously the exterior molding profiles have been completely lost in the effort to fully replace the unit, where other places there has been panning introduced both at the mullions and at the jambs.
What's your proposal?
My proposal is aluminum 1/1 windows throughout in lieu of this historic divided light over one.
And my question is about the framing that you just showed us. Are you going to change that or unify that in any way?
Oh, well, I can skip ahead if you'd like.
Don't skip ahead. No, I just thought that I was just asking about what you just showed us. So,
so some of the existing configurations have shown a window-to-window frame and have lost the proportions and the volume and the detailing of the central mullion, and I'd like to reintroduce those. So here are the typical elevations of the single window units, mostly bathroom and kitchen for the small, and living, dining for the street facades. They're very proportionate, this A-type unit. So we're proposing going from the divided light, the historic, the current inconsistent aluminum frames with varying jamb head and sill conditions to a more unified elevation with adjusted sight lines and more consistent jamb depths.
And are there any of the existing, historic 6/1s or 4/1s left?
No, none. There are very few areas where I could see the original wood molding at jam conditions, at off streets, at basement levels, but very few and far between and in poor condition. If I can skip back, I don't know how to go back. This is where we were able to observe some of the original detailing, which is very subtle, much like the facade, but there was a fine bead detail that I've reintroduced. We were also able to document the width of the historic mullions to reintroduce that, a 6-inch width, which would be more consistent. So these elevations show those configurations, both the maid's room configurations with the slender window to one side and the proportionate paired window elevations. This section shows the typical detailing through any of the paired scenarios where we will be going brick to brick. In some places, the windows will already have lost the historic fabric, but this will be the universal in the interest of having appropriate waterproofing details, air sealing, and energy efficiency of the new units, and to recreate these consistent sight lines and molding depths.
I just want to be clear. So you did say in response to Kay's question that there are no 6/1s left on the building, is that
correct? Correct. I think even in the 1980s tax photo, I could only identify a handful of them. So I think they've been gone for quite some time.
Can you bring up, again, just a picture of the building?
Yes, current or historic?
I beg your pardon?
A current photo or a historic one?
A current photo. Thanks.
Of course.
I asked for that because if I may, Kay, can we comment?
Yes, please.
We've generally had two criteria for approving master plans which are not historically accurate. one of which is where the vast majority, and certainly in this case, none of the originally configured windows are left. And the other, which, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, one of the standards that Landmarks uses is whether or not the windows, the configuration of the windows is a major, if not the major aesthetic element in a building as opposed to stonework and so forth. And that's the reason I asked for a current picture of the building, because other than the windows, it looks pretty plain. If I'm not, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, there don't seem to be any.
No, yeah, it's certainly a very subtle and resigned building.
Yeah. So it seems that certainly it meets the first criteria. And as far as the second, it's kind of iffy. I mean, for a building as simple as this, it would be nice to eventually have it restored to 6/1, which is not much else that distinguishes. So it's kind of a balance. I mean, it's
understood. And I see that in two ways too, because if I can find the photo here, I think that the historic appearance of the building, despite the divided lights, though, it always was rather understated. I don't think it has a very strong dominance. I think if the windows had been made of a different material, if they had been a steel frame or a darker color, I know this is a black and white photo, but I think it's reasonable to say that there was a lighter brown tone as opposed to a black. It doesn't have that strong, heavy statement. So I think there was always a resigned appearance to the facade. Additionally, I think that there are a lot of precedents in the neighborhood that do have similar subtle elevations, and 1/1 configurations for windows is not atypical for this building type nor this area.
Yeah. My inclination, frankly, is to approve it with the 1/1s. And one of the reasons is that unless all of the windows were being replaced at once, and I assume they're not.
No, they're not. Yes, we always risk
that it would be decades to require 6/1s would result in decades of hodgepodge.
Yeah,
I agree.
On these windows, and in balance, I think it would be better to maintain the consistency and approve the replacement with new 1/1s. So I would be positive in terms of this application.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
Thank you for your feedback.
Those weird awning things.
I know they really cover the 6/1. What we just reintroduced the awnings and go with 1/1.
Nobody will know what we had.
I don't know how they would meet wind loads nowadays, but we'll see.
Looks like they're not doing so well even.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions or thoughts from the committee first, and then anybody else?
Ms. Deloff, if you could end your screen share for a minute so we could see each other.
Course.
Thanks. And I assume that the remaining attendees are for the next item, but if they want to raise their hand to be heard on this one, I'm not seeing it. Looks like Paige has her hand up, Kay, and I may have a comment whenever you're ready. But go to Paige first.
Yeah, let's hear Paige. What do you think?
Well, I'm always sad when you lose a 6/1, but as you say, you probably couldn't see it properly with the drapery of the awning, and I think consistency on a big building like this, I have to, believe it or not, Jay, I agree with you. This might be only the second time in our mutual sharing of preservation. But my question is really with the details. You mentioned that you had looked at and found some of the wood frame details that has the 3/4 round. What is, are you, I didn't quite understand the detail that you'd shown. Is that feature coming back?
Yes, we've specified a brick mold, the aluminum panning that introduces that round. So we'll have that beadwork detail reintroduced as opposed to that, harsh square edge.
So that, I think, will go a long way to soften the modern appearance. So that will follow all the way around?
Correct. Well, it will be the three sides. The sill will have a different.
And how will you, and do you have a detail of what the, I can't remember the technical word, the sill, thank you, of the window. Is that going to be square, or will that be also rounded as well?
No, it's a sloped element. It's part of the overall panning and the waterproofing detail. So it maintains the same color and it comes down at a slope and has a square edge.
Okay,
but
great.
I don't think that would be inconsistent to any detailing of even a wood window, because generally they would have a sloped sill and a vertical termination.
I agree. Too much of a good thing. And the last question is, I can't remember, did you say these are going to be painted the brown or they're black?
Currently, we have a bronze color proposed. There's black throughout right now, but I think the bronze tone, although it will create some difference in the meantime, I think it's more appropriate to its historic.
I agree. Well done. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paige. And Mark?
Yeah, thanks. I find myself agreeing with Paige and with Jay. I just wanted to add, so I won't repeat what they said, but the one thing I will mention is Jay, even though I usually am the one who is holding out for the divided light, I'm not going to do so in this case for the reasons that Jay indicated, but for another one as well. So I just thought, I'm not sure if it's worth including in our resolution or not, which is that we heard an application to have 1/1s in the building immediately next door to this.
Yes, 370.
Right. And that is an example that, to highlight what Jay was talking about in terms of criteria, that was an example where we found the level of decoration on the building to be sufficient that the elimination of the multiple light or divided light would not be missed as much as it might be otherwise on this facade. But I don't think that we need to distinguish here and go back to the 6/1 on this facade, because in effect, the entire block would now be unified, not just the entire building. And so I think that that is to the benefit of the historic district and the individual building as well. So just to pile on a couple of extra reasons why I think that this is this is appropriate in this case, even though I lament, but will not insist upon the return of the divided light.
That's a good point. I agree.
Yeah. We're also agreeable tonight. I don't know. Makes
We'll
me
fix that
nervous.
soon enough.
Well, if you insist, Kay, we'll try to figure out a disagreement for the next application.
I'm sure that won't be hard. Okay.
It's because Michelle's not here.
All right. Are we ready to go to a
Yes.
resolution if there's nothing else? Okay. So this is a resolution to approve. And so let's go around. Josh
Yes.
and Peter
Yes.
and Doug McGowan,
Yes.
Madge
Yes.
and Jay,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, and
That's everybody.
the committee. And then Paige.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. And Doug
Yes.
and Mark.
Yes.
All right, then.
Thank you all so much.
Terrific. Is there a date?
Yes, I believe January 5th.
I think, Kay, what do you think?
Less the problem with this one than the Ansonia.
Yeah. I would let this one go.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of thing that we would say we could just go with the committee resolution.
So Michelle, what we're talking about is that you're likely to have your public hearing in the afternoon, and then we'll have a full board vote in the evening. Most of the time we want a full board vote to go to LPC, but we have a deal with them that we don't insist upon that in areas where we don't think it's as controversial. I'm not sure you'll find LPC as agreeable as we are, especially given 775.
Understood.
If you take a look at the history of 775 West End Avenue, where we approved, based on the criteria that Jay mentioned, we approved 1/1s, and the committee sent the applicant back 3 times before they finally approved it. So I don't know that you'll find them. But anyway, I'm okay if the chairs of the committee are okay. I'm okay within a committee action on this one. But you're on your own in terms of whether you want a full board vote instead of a committee vote to back you up on that. You don't have to decide right now.
Yeah, I think I will consult with my client if that's all right with you, if I can follow up.
Of course. All right, let us know.
Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Bye-bye. All right, one more. And that is 110 West 88th, a theoretical building.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I should be promoting people, shouldn't I? Give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Lester Katz is the person with whom I was corresponding about this. This is a late
Yes, hello.
addition to your agenda, and they should all be. There's Mr. Katz. So shall I call up the slides, or do you want to do it yourself, Mr. Katz?
Actually, Jordan Rogov should be promoted. He's
Yeah, I can take over
Okay.
With the
Yeah.
screen if that's helpful.
Okay, you're all set. You should be able to pull up your screen and share whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. Please tell me if you're seeing my screen.
Yes.
Does that work?
Yes, although we
Yes.
see your yeah, you want to recenter that a little bit. There you go.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for hearing us tonight. We really, really appreciate it. I know we were relatively last minute in reaching out. And if this seems like deja vu to everybody, it is deja vu all over again. We were before you about 7 years ago with this project. And yes, it remains a conceptual project at this point, but the owner has every intention of building this. And that's part of the reason that we're back here today. After we presented to you, there were a number of comments that were made at that time, some 7 years ago. And we made a number of those changes, which we'll elaborate on through the presentation tonight. And ultimately got an approval from the Landmarks Preservation Commission in March of the following year. That's 2014 now. Excuse me, 2014 now. So we'll get into that shortly. But thanks again for hearing us tonight. So starting with this first slide, this is the site in red. I don't know. Can you see my cursor? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that visible?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. So we're right on the northern edge of the Upper West Side Central Park West Historic District, right at the corner or near the corner of 88th and Columbus. And on the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see that this lot is kind of the tail to a much larger lot, which is 101 West 87th Street, which is a large condo building in which on the next slide, you'll see that project was approved with an original, or not, I shouldn't say original, but initially it was approved with a townhouse design at Landmarks prior to our involvement back in 2014. So that townhouse was part of the same zoning lot of the large condo building, the 101 building. And actually throughout construction served as an access point for the construction and staging. So it was going to be the last thing built even at the inception of the project. And unfortunately, to date, it obviously hasn't happened, but we hope to realize it in the near future. But we just wanted to make it clear that it's part of the same zoning lot. And the rear yard of this townhouse is actually the courtyard of the condo building. And so they kind of function as again, one zoning lot. here are renderings of the of what was approved at Landmarks for the condo building, 101 West 87th, and then on the right-hand side, what was approved initially at 110 West 88th Street. So going back in time here, 1940 tax photos, you'll see that the 110 was really the one of 8 really fantastic eclectic group of row houses designed by Samuel Reed, initially built in 1886, Romanesque revival style, peppered with all manner of different styles and different pieces throughout, which we spent a lot of time analyzing. And then you see here on the, my son, thank you. We spent a lot of time analyzing. On the right-hand side here, we have a shot, the tax photo, which is actually showing the remnants of the demolition of the original 110 Samuel Reed building right in 1988. So you can see the debris being hauled away when the tax photo was taken. So the lot, to the best of our knowledge, has been vacant since that point. Here are some more shots of the current state of the site. And you'll see that the middle 6 row houses of the original 8 group of 8 by Samuel Reed are all in pretty good shape. They've been maintained very well, with the exception of the westernmost one over here, which was completely reclad in 1962. So it's kind of more of a modernist appearance right now. As we looked around for design inspiration, what we felt would be contextually appropriate for the site, we went up and down West 88th and throughout the neighborhood. And what's immediately apparent, and something you know inside out from dealing with this district on a regular basis, is the amazing kind of texture and fabric of the row houses and the great rhythm. And what we saw immediately was a balance of unity or unifying features along with diversifying features. And so some of the diversifying features are ones of color or painted brownstone. There's a number of different bay windows and elements that tend to diversify and kind of individualize each one of the units. So that was something that jumped out at us immediately. One of the other elements that we looked at was the transition that happens from mid-block to the avenues. And there is kind of a shift in scale and massing and articulation that happens at that transition. So us being the easternmost and right up against Columbus Avenue, or the large building at Columbus Avenue, which is 570 Columbus, we looked at this condition. What happens in this transition between mid-block and end-block? We looked at the singular material or materiality of a lot of these row houses, how so many different things are articulated with the singular material, and thought that that's kind of a beautiful launching off point in thinking about materiality for the project. Bay windows, another predominant feature across all of the facades, and that very frequently becomes one of those diversifying features on these townhouses. And then of course stoops, and the idea of kind of a transition from the sidewalk into the home, and creating, again, a transition and a procession into each one of these townhouses. So we knew when we brought this back, to do so without a stoop would be a mistake. So in understanding this kind of diversity versus kind of unification, we tried to be very scientific and analytic about it, and look at what looks like kind of a hodgepodge of all these different elements across the facade is actually a very finely calibrated balance of features. And so beautiful pediments that really break down to 1 of 3 types. And then a kind of a rusticated Mannerist type base at the bottom, and then the belt coursing, which is continuous, these established datums where all the windows aligned, and all of the windows are the same kind of width-wise, horizontally, and then very different on a vertical axis. And so here you go. This is starting to kind of set the buildings apart from one another with the different window sizes, apertures, alignments. And so there's a lot of kind of play happening with those elements. And when it comes to the color of the facades, we found that throughout a good 15 to 20% of the buildings throughout this district were actually kind of lighter colors, and they were creating that sense of diversity and differentiation and individuality between all of those buildings. So here's some examples, some of the light facades. Very frequently, they're painted, brownstone or brick buildings. And so here's the kind of the first representation of the design that was ultimately approved, and is quite different than what we showed you back in late 2013. I think one of the big issues that CB7 at that time had was with the bay window, that we had a projected bay window, and I think many felt that it was lacking the charm of a lot of the other more articulated, more traditional bay windows. And so what happened in our conversations with LPC and following your critique was to actually push the bay window back so it wasn't projecting, it wasn't as monolithic, and it was more coplanar with the facade and more about the framework that's around it. Another kind of big feature that I think resonated well with you last time, and definitely resonated well with the Landmarks Preservation Commission, was that we acknowledged that the punched window, the cadence across the Samuel Reed buildings was of critical importance. But we also know that most buyers of property are looking for as much sunlight as possible, great views, and West 88th is no exception to having just beautiful, verdant streetscape with trees. And so what we did is we kind of have a band of windows at each one of these floors, and these screens that come down and from the street level, when you're looking up, appear to be mostly opaque, but from inside the home at level, you're actually able to see through and get more sunlight and more views from each one of those rooms. So we thought that was kind of a clever way to mitigate those two concerns and observations about how the windows should be continued across with a new building. So here's some more details. The facade proposed is Indiana limestone, and it's done as a rain screen. And so the limestone pieces are very much like bricks that go atop a membrane, and the rain screen just means that water is actually allowed to pass between the limestone and the shell of the building. And so we're shifting scales on the frame, and that frame really kind of culminates in this kind of rusticated base in a much more contemporary manner down below, along with the stoop. I think another comment that was made when we presented to you last was that the doors were lacking heft and looked a little too commercial, because we had initially come in with steel frame. Taking your advice into consideration, as well as Landmarks, we did much thicker painted wood doors and windows down below. And so here again on the right hand side, you see the screen that I was speaking of, which are limestone slats. Hi, sweetheart. Thank you for presenting. Say hi to everybody. I'll be done in a minute, please. Just give me a moment. Sorry, everybody. So these are the limestone slats across the windows. And here is a elevation montage of the site without the building. So this is 110 West 88th site right here. And then this is a montage putting the elevation in. So you'll see we never truly experience the building in terms of an elevation. And so this fifth floor is pushed back 16 feet. So I'll show you visibility studies that show that is actually minimally visible from most vantage points up and down the street. So here we go. In alignment, again, this band coursing and the organization of the facades was a major composition of Samuel Reed's with the original 8 buildings, and we want to honor that with this design. So they continue across. You see at each location, and the stoops at the same elevation. And so that was one of the problems that we had with the townhouse that was previously approved, that it just kind of disregarded all of these datums and conventions established in the previous buildings. So here is this kind of, again, more contemporary version of a rusticated base, the thicker framed door entry into the building. And then one other feature, just playing off the verdant tree-lined streets of West 88th, we have these integrated flower boxes. So we want that almost to have like a little bit of a dialogue built into the facade along with the quality of that street. So here's up above, again, the screen, and that's glass behind there. And you're actually able to, these are operable, and then operable sashes down below. You're able to tend to the flowers and planting. And then this is a detail of what was previously the projected bay window, showing that we've kind of brought that back in. And it shows the scale shift from the base to the kind of body of the building. So trying to have that tripartite arrangement of the original, but again, in a more contemporary manner. Here is a site plan, and this is showing the donut of the block, which has been well maintained through the years, and the 101 West 87th, the large condo building, their backyard, and then our townhouse abutting that. And so that this townhouse will effectively share the amenities and outdoor space of that development as part of as being a part of the zoning lot. And so Lester, can you speak to this slide? This is just showing the donut, right? This is just showing.
Yeah, this is just the picture of the donut in the back there. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And then these are floor plans showing what was quite a challenge. It's a 16-foot wide townhouse. Some people might be skeptical that you can really lay out a townhouse of that size, but we feel very confident, very strongly that you can. And the layouts work great. And most buyers are looking for an elevator, so we're able to kind of fit that in there, and the stairs. I know this isn't quite germane, but just wanted to share. Here's the building section. It should be noted that the entire building fits within the as of right envelope, which will show on the zoning page. And then these are the visibility studies moving from the east towards the west. You'll see that 16-foot setback on that 5th floor renders it minimally visible from from most vantage points. You'll see in the case of view 6 and 7, which are these two locations, you're able to see just a little bit poking up over the pediments of the adjacent buildings. And then finally, the zoning page showing that we're below max building height. We're well below FAR. I think, Lester, we're only about 1/3 of the available FAR for the site, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's 3.44, and we're at 1.5, I believe.
Got it. I can't eat it now. Anyway, that's it. That's the presentation, and thank you again for allowing us to present tonight.
So can we get the history now? Are you here because your permit expired on the original approval?
Yes.
So it was approved at LPC.
It was approved at LPC, and it expired in March of this year. We had been working with LPC to extend that, and we missed their deadlines by a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. There is an interested party in building this, and so our hope is that in extending this, that deal is culminated and the building is built in the near future.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that our newer members understood what the history was, that in fact this was approved at LPC and is now back in essentially the same iteration.
Yes.
That was approved with a couple of different details.
If I may,
Exactly.
if I may follow on Jay, Kay, can I follow on Jay with that? Do we lose Kay? Oh, no. Okay, well, then I'll grant myself permission to do that. It was approved at LPC, but it was over our objection. We heard this in January of 2014 and had a resolution to disapprove.
Thank you. I was mistaken. I thought it was approved.
It was disapproved by CB7, but approved by LPC. So they are correct in what they said. Just, oh, there's Kay. Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped in when you zoned out.
No.
Was it the same design?
This design,
they've done a pretty good job of highlighting some of the changes that they made. When we saw it, there was a gigantic exterior or protruding or
window,
bay window that looked a lot like a flat screen TV that was on the facade that's now been recessed. And if I may, just to continue on that vein, to highlight what is the same or different than 6.5 years ago, almost 7 years ago. At that time, the base was not rusticated brick, but rather some bricks protruding out and some bricks recessed. And these are Roman bricks, if I'm not mistaken, to try to emulate a rusticated effect rather than actually rusticate the bricks. If I'm understanding your presentation today, you've changed that to actual rusticated bricks on the lower portion of the front facade. Am I correct in that?
It's not rusticated bricks in the traditional sense. It's like a hammered finish Indiana limestone rain screen. So it gives the effect, there's a scale shift and a finish shift on the stone. So yes, it's more akin. What we had showed you previously was kind of an undulating base, and Landmarks was no fan of that. And so a lot of the changes, just to be clear, what you disapproved was kind of different than what we eventually got approved at Landmarks. So we came back a second time to Landmarks, coupling both your comments and their comments, and that's what led to what we presented to you tonight. Just to be clear.
Got it. Okay. So the rain screen was a part of your presentation back then, which is what, but there was also that undulating brick effect, which now you have substituted with something else. And then you highlighted the wood versus the metal main door. But in terms of the massing and the volume and the I don't want to say geometry, but the shape of the building from the street, what you've presented, other than the things that we just highlighted, is more or less what was presented back then. I think that's
there was one other change, and I think that the pediment that we had showed you previously, you weren't that enthused about either, and that was kind of a superimposition of the kind of gable form across the flat pediment. So it was a kind of a hybrid, and I think somebody actually called it the ghost of pediments past or something, something along those lines.
You just refreshed my memory. I called it. I believe that was me.
That was your line. Okay. That
was phantom pediment.
Yeah. Okay. I'll shut up now. I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted what
no,
was.
I just wanted to say I really had, Mark has a better memory than I do. And I apologize because I should have gone back to see if I could dig up all of the history, and but I didn't. But Mark's filled in.
Well, my memory's okay, but it was only extended so far as to be able to find on our website the resolution that we passed back then. So anyway, I have it in front of me if anybody cares. But I'm sorry to interrupt, and I'll give it back to the committee.
Can we get the rendering up on the screen again?
Sure.
For everybody's benefit.
Question: do the slots have a purpose, or are they're decorative?
Yeah, the purpose is both kind of almost like a solar shield of sorts, but since it's not direct sunlight north, it will just kind of serve as almost like a blind. But more importantly, we really wanted to maintain the cadence of the punched openings across the other 7 row houses. And so we thought this was a clever way to accomplish that from the street level. When you're looking up, those slats actually look a little bit more solid. But from being inside the room looking out, it's actually 50% open. So you appear to have much larger window in view of the street. So let me get the.
Are you able to turn to the slide that shows the proposed complete proposal as compared
that's
to
what
its
I'm
old?
looking for.
Yeah.
Is the rendering.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we
Whoops.
go. There we go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No more pediment.
Yep. And we came back with a cornice that again is contemporary, but it still has kind of enough heft to cap off the and serve as kind of the head of the building with the base and body.
Can you show more of the facade of 88th Street, how it fits with the other brownstones to the west?
Show the context photos that we have earlier?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, you could also bring up the elevation that shows the street elevation, right?
Yeah, I think this one's better because it's you know,
Okay.
the whole block. So again, it doesn't look like these buildings per se, but it tries to capitalize on and utilize some of the design devices at play, right? When we looked at it, it's a balance of elements that try to make all of these buildings look the same, right? And that's lining up the windows, the band coursing, the cornices, the base. Like there's certain elements that are repeated on all of them. And then there are elements that are different on all of them to kind of set them apart. You've got the color, you've got different types of bay projections, different stoop articulation. And so it's kind of a balance of those two elements, and the composition is finding that balance. So we did that, but we did it more so in a modern vernacular where it's, you know, it appears a little bit simpler. But again, it's still trying to use these devices throughout. So it has the same DNA, but decidedly more of a reflection of how we build today, rather than, you know, doing a brownstone.
If I may, Kay, just a brief comment for the benefit more of the newer members of our committee, because you look at this this proposed design, and I think certainly initially it's jarring as far as its place on this row of brownstones. And this is just a matter of information. I'm not rendering an opinion on it, but landmarks, as they do with rear yard and rooftop additions, and in this particular case, looks upon these new additions to this streetscape favorably when the newness, if you will, of the design is clear. When you do it, as in this case, a new building or a new rear yard addition or rooftop addition, they look favorably upon the distinction between historical and modern. So what we might initially think of as jarring and out of place, they often, as they did in this case, look favorably on a modern design superimposed onto a historical streetscape. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating, because they approved it with some minor changes. So that's just informational as to how landmarks, but it's not a comment upon what we should do, but how Landmarks receives these proposals.
You mentioned uniformity. You looked to build uniformity across some of the representations in front of us here on the screen and the proposal. Can you go back to the slide that notes the increase in height of the townhouse as it relates to their neighboring buildings?
Sure.
I think the rendering shows that.
Well, the rendering shows that. I think you're probably
Yeah.
specifically
one of these
slides.
slides. Exactly. Okay.
Yep. Exactly. So the uniformity really has to do with primarily the band coursing. You see there's a very strong datum here. And one of the problems we had with the design that was approved before us, the brick one that I showed you in the beginning, is that there was zero regard for those levels. And it was actually kind of a taller building than what we're proposing. And so we felt that there's way too much good stuff happening, and there's way too much of an incredible precedent established with the Samuel Reed buildings to not have that be the framework by which we complete our design. So that's happening here. And I guess, the concern about its height is, yes, it's a little bit taller, but this fifth story is negligible given it's 60 feet back. And with the visibility studies that we showed, is really a non-factor. So it's really just about this distance, and we're trying to kind of keep that the same as the pediments, albeit it's a little bit taller. The other reason that I think Landmarks was fine with this, and we came to this conclusion, is that we are the easternmost of the 8 townhouses, and we serve as kind of the transition to this larger scale buildings that happen along Columbus Avenue. And so they agreed that there can be a transition, kind of a gradual step up happening to that larger volume that's appropriate and with precedent.
Related to uniformity, if you don't mind, one other question. When I look at the buildings to your right, the townhouses to your right, I notice quite a bit of arch and roundedness to a number of the designs, and I'm wondering if they're applied to the design being presented, or if they are, where they are being applied to the proposal.
No, we did not go with the arches in this kind of contemporary vernacular that we're using. The arch is a little bit foreign. And I think that there's ample precedent among these where, sections of buildings where it's entirely rectilinear. So I think the fact that it is rectilinear and doesn't utilize the arch kind of plays to the diversity. It's one of those, again, a balance of things that are the same, a balance of things that are quite different. And so that you're absolutely right. The arches, even the one here that has no arches per se, still has this eyebrow above the windows here. So every one of them does have that feature, but we felt that wasn't really in line with the vernacular that we were trying to establish as a kind of a contemporary or a reflection of contemporary building technology and aesthetics and whatnot.
Can I ask a question about the roof?
Mm-hmm.
The top floor? I'm a little confused from this picture. I know it's a little foggy there. Is that one very tall floor, and does it slope back? Or is it?
It's recessed.
This right
It's
here.
set back.
Yeah, if we go back to the rendering, or the visibility studies here.
That rendering is misleading. It indicates that that's visible full height match, but it's actually set back.
Exactly. The elevation has no horizon line. It's essentially flat on every floor. So you never experience a building that way. what you see up on my screen right now is the most visible that 5th floor will be from up and down West 88th.
That pink,
Right
Yes.
here. This.
pink in that. See, Madge, that little,
I
just
do, I
that
see
little
it.
piece above the pink
Yes. it
is
looks
what would be
different.
visible.
Yeah, it looks different from the front facade.
Yeah,
It just
those
looks
flat on elevations, we get that all the time. It makes the rooftop additions look like just another story
It makes them look
on
scary.
the building, but it's really not.
We like to avoid those drawings when we can.
No, they're always somewhat misleading.
Other thoughts, Mark?
Well, I think Paige had her hand up first, but
Paige? Yeah, sorry, I've been gone and I'm back.
and Peter has his hand up too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have.
I'd like to comment about the one thing I think that needs some work is the 4th floor. I think different from the townhouses to the west. It's 1 floor higher, and it acts as a kind of a go-between between the townhouses and the tenement building to the east. But I think there's a missed opportunity here to do something different at the top floor. If no other way than doing something with a brickwork, the way you see the building, you don't just see it head on, you do see the blank wall facing to the west. And you'll see that quite a bit from other parts of 88th Street. And that's going to be fairly jarring, in my opinion. It's like a big blank whitish wall.
This right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right there above the brownstones or the townhouses to the west. And it looms up there. And yet the building, the tenement building to the east, the good thing about it is at least it has the same coloration of the brownstones or the 4-story buildings to the west. And so this is, whereas I'm not against the colors of the building per se, because as you pointed out, there are quite a few of the townhouses that are lighter color between the reddish and brown other buildings. But it's the top floor that I think needs work. And it could be done fairly easily with the brickwork, with a different kind of brickwork or something special up there to recognize that it's a sort of a transition. It's both a floor and a transition. It's a transition to the top, and it's a transition between the 3- and 4-story buildings from the west to the 5-story building to the east. So I think there's an opportunity without a major change to do something different at the top floor.
I think that's a very fair comment. And what's not visible in any of the kind of renderings here is that there actually is a material shift. That we know that one of the kind of established methods of building in this neighborhood, and a lot of neighborhoods around Manhattan, is that you do a primary material on the street face, and you might wrap it around, say, 12, 18 inches, and then go to a lesser grade material. And so we're planning to do that here, where the limestone wraps that 18 inches, and then we switch to a brick that is the same kind of buff or sandy color of the limestone. So we are going to have kind of a material shift that happens there that I think will speak to what you're talking about. So you don't have this monolithic presence. I think you're going to have a much different kind of texturally.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the front facade too at the
Okay.
top, not just the sides.
Just the side.
In
Got
other
it.
words, the fourth floor, it's typical that that there are caps to buildings, sometimes a whole floor, sometimes the windows change. But I think in this
Like a mansard arrangement.
with a brick, you know.
No. Okay.
Or glass.
Okay. Paige?
Hi, thanks. For the record, I didn't vote for this last time. And I for all the changes that you made, I now had a chance to look at the previous design and this one. And I'm going to start off with two questions, and then I'll just give you my reaction. First question is, against the 100 tenement, 100 West 88th Street, is the return wall that faces that tenement building faced in the same material as the facade, or is it a lesser grand material? I know you don't see it unless you're walking from the east to the west, but the party wall where the gap is between the two buildings, what is that east wall made of?
Our party wall, that also brick. Also brick.
Also brick, so it's the same as the front, but no raised beam.
The limestone will go all the way across the facade and wrap back 18 inches, and then we'll transition to the brick all the way back on both the east and west sides of the townhouse.
Sorry, your voice trailed off.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
After 18 inches to what material?
Limestone back 18 inches, then brick the remainder of the west and east elevations.
Okay. And then the other question is, could you pull up the plan on the parlor floor?
Sure.
And the reason why I wanted to look at that for the entrance, I think it's the second one. One of the problems with the height of this building is the fact that you've chosen not to put a basement level in, but start with a cellar and then grow the building with the typical parlor floor height. And then you keep going, repeating the same height. And the thing that disturbs me, that to be honest, when I looked at this before, it didn't dawn on me, but because you use so much of the center of the building for storage, elevator, and stairwell, that when you actually enter that room, that great big window, which you say is going to be sun-filled, heads up, it's not. It faces north. It's cold, and it's blocked by the tall building on Amsterdam. Is that big window
Columbus.
on the parlor floor? That window there is nothing but a grand hallway. And it seems to me that some of the things that you've put in this proposal, a lot of the facade treatment is glorifying spaces that are really secondary. You know, on the ground floor, and I'm being very critical and I apologize, but these are my observations. You have a large foyer. I'm not quite sure what the use of the room is on the second floor. I can't read it. It just says second.
Family room.
And those, if those are bedrooms, they how is somebody, if it is a bedroom, going to have privacy as you look? Because you're going to be looking into another large building. Will be sort of spying on the openness of these floor plans with these huge windows. So that's an observation, because I think having designed the floor plans this way, it creates problems on the facade. And now if we could go back to the facade, there are two things that really disturb me on this one. First of all, in my life, studying historic buildings and contexts, this reminds me of, I don't know, an infill design in war-torn Amsterdam after the war, where they had to quickly throw up very modern buildings. And the problem here is, as Peter and others, my colleagues have suggested, and Jay, is one of scale. I mean, you could take the bay window of the building at, 112, and put it in the bay, it would fit right through the bay, your large glass opening. There's just one wonders the size of the people that are going to be upstairs with a diminutive door and something that is akin to its neighbors in alignment. But I have a real problem with scale. I have a real problem. I think rain screens are great in certain areas, and I know that's the big thing right now for sustainability and the transition with these beautiful little bricks, but I don't think you're doing enough justice to it. I'd rather see more of your stone bricks than more of the glass windows. And I agree with Peter. The fact that the top floor of this building, you have these large windows, and then you have what I would assume is about 8 feet of cornice of blank wall with a parapet, and then the setback for something even bigger at the backside. I just think I said before, and I haven't sadly changed my mind, that to me this the standard benchmark for quality infill design in a historic district. I'm not saying you have to copy the Queen Anne style or whatever, but this one is just it's too muscular in my opinion. The ground floor, I don't recall, it seems improved from where it was before, but the upper 3 floors just look like, frankly, a mistake on the block. Apart from the use of the stone, it's a misfit. And I can't support this. I'm very sorry. As an architect, I know the effort you've put into it. I heard every word you carefully chose to describe each of these elements. But there's nothing here that is a precedent or a material or a detail or a measurement or a treatment that follows any of the quality that exists on our street. And I live down the street on the sunny side, not the shadowy side. So I don't think your tree is going to grow. I think I think you just need to rethink. You're facing north. You've got you're tucked into 2 beautiful brick articulated buildings, and this just screams I'm different. So I'm sorry, but now you know my thoughts.
Thanks, Paige. Anybody else? Questions, thoughts?
Jay has his hand up, and then if I could be heard.
Yeah, I had something, Kay, when you get a chance.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just now, and let me preface it by saying that my design skills, my artistic skills don't extend much beyond stick figures. But I wanted to focus on that big window again. It's all coming back to me in droves, and I think following up a little bit on what Paige said about a bay window, accepting the overall design of the facade, I still think that large picture window it doesn't seem to reflect any kind of consistency with the design of the adjacent brownstones. And I don't see why the bay window that we didn't like the first time around was essentially because it just stuck out like a big TV screen. And it wasn't much of a design element, but I don't see why this that window couldn't be, and I maybe ask Peter or Paige what the correct term is for the bay window with the two slanty sides and the straight front, if there's a name for it, with some division there.
I think it's called a bay window.
I'm sorry?
I think you're describing a classic bay window, right?
Yeah, I didn't know if there was a particular term for that shape.
Like the bay window on the neighboring building, right?
Yeah, that kind of shape with a division, I think would still fit the overall design of the facade, but would soften it somewhat and integrate it more into that row. Because to me, it still looks like just a giant void, if you will, even in the context of the facade as it's designed. And I still find it jarring and disturbing.
Thanks, Jay. Mark, you had a thought?
Well, in the interim, Susan raised her hand, and I think I should wait until after the committee has spoken. So if it's okay.
All right, Susan.
I'll be brief. Everything Paige said times 20.
20, wow.
Okay.
Okay, then, thank you.
So I guess I'm up.
You are.
I like.
So I approach this. I approach this from. I want to introduce one more concept here, and that is that this is not the first time we've seen this application, and while it has changed a bit from what we saw before, I'm concerned about precedent, and I say that with what I hope will convey is respect for the architects and their process here, because we saw the results of their study. There's the alignment of window heights and dimensions so that they are attempting in their modern way to conform to the patterns that they see on the group of 8 of which this, well, the group of 7 of which this is the missing 8th, as well as other designs further down, further west on the block. And I respect that effort, even if I don't support the design that they've come up with, and I do not. I don't, for many of the reasons that have already been articulated, although the additional element that I want to add is that the big changes that we've seen in this design from the one we saw in January of 2014 are the recess rather than the exterior protrusion of the bay window, the changing of that undulating brick for a more rusticated effect, and some welcome changes to the front entrance, and especially the main door. All of those things notwithstanding, the key bases of our resolution not to approve, I think, still obtain here. I'm just going to read one sentence from our disapproval from 2014, which read that, which recited the, at that time, an appreciation for the research and effort made by the architects at the time. But the conclusion was that we believe that the proposed design of the new row house is overscaled for its context, overly formal and rectilinear in its design, too cool in its materials and color palette, and lacks the whimsy, warmth, and variety of its neighbors. And I think that still obtains here. And while I have every reason to believe that these architects are back before us because of the reasons that they stated and not to try to take a second bite of the same apple, my concern is that we should be true to a decision that we've already made, unless there is a change that prompts a reconsideration. And for many of the reasons that have been shared so far, I don't see a material enough, well, that's probably a pun, isn't it? I don't see a significant enough change in the design here versus the one that we considered and disapproved in 2014 to merit a different conclusion. I would like us to be consistent in our appraisals of things that we see. I think this committee does a wonderful job of trying to rationalize whether something is the same or different than a different precedent. And so for that reason, I can't find my way to approving it, even as there are other more erudite reasons to disapprove that others have articulated. That's my concern that I would add without repeating others.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, other thoughts? Madge?
One last one. That is a very, very narrow lot. How wide is the house?
16 feet.
16 feet, and it's very tall and sort of top heavy for that spot, is my feeling.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Peter, was that the start of a comment or that was just a?
Yeah, whereas I focused on the fourth floor, I'm in agreement with the other members of the committee and in principle. I think that one of the problems here is not so much the bulk of the building necessarily, but it's a combination of the bulk of the building and the choice of the material, which makes it stand out so much. I mean, just looking at the photo we're looking at now, it says, look at me, how modern and how new I am, you know? And that's not exactly what this block needs. I have to echo what Paige said. I also live on the block, and whereas there are, as we saw in the photos, a number of townhouses that are light gray and not necessarily red, there are other reasons they fit in so well, because they carry on the same roof line, because they carry on many of the same details, just a different material or a different color. But this is all those things, you know. It's positioned here like it came in from Mars, and doesn't relate to the building to the east and doesn't relate much to the buildings to the west. And I think it's easy to do it by changing the material. That would go a long way, by my thinking.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Is that everything?
Yeah.
Anybody else? I guess what I find disturbing about it most is that big window on the second floor for the family room. And I do agree with Paige that the rooms behind are gonna just feel dwarfed by the window on the parlor floor and on the family room window. The rest of it, I'm not loving, but I could probably go along with some of it. All right, so where are we at?
Somebody should make a resolution.
I think we should disapprove.
Okay, Susan? Great. Do you want to say anything more about that or just?
No, carry on, Kay.
We had such flowery language in the, 6 or 7 years ago.
But no reason why you can't append the one from 7 years ago to what you're doing now.
I sense that we would want to do that. Yeah. All right. Do people understand where we're at?
Yes. The motion is to disapprove.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
For the reasons that you've already articulated.
Indeed, that we've gotten down. Let's start with Peter.
I disapprove.
Okay, so you agree with the resolution to disapprove?
Yes.
Okay. Madge?
I agree.
You agree with Peter?
Agree to disapprove.
I heard approve.
Jay? Jay, are you along for the ride?
Jay, we can't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Doug?
Yes.
Okay. And Susan made the resolution. I assume she's,
I agree with myself, yes.
you agree with yourself. I have to agree with you as well. Is that everybody? Who else?
Did you ask Madge?
I did, yeah. Did.
Yeah, I did.
I
only have
agree
s-
as well.
And there's Josh. Okay.
Okay, thanks. I knew we only
Disappeared
had
from my,
six.
yes, yes, you disappeared from my screen and now you're back. Okay.
All right, so that's 7 to 0 to 0 to 0.
Yes. Okay. And Paige?
Agree?
Okay. Doug?
I agree, and I with regret, but I do agree, yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Mark?
I vote yes.
Okay. Is there a date with landmarks?
Yes, January 19th.
January 19th. Okay.
So you'll have a
All
full
right.
board. So this will be presented at full board on January 5th. You're welcome to come and offer comments at that time. But Kay and Michelle will be the ones to present the resolution. But of course, you're welcome to speak.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks again for getting us in tonight. We really appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
well.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thanks
your
so
time
much.
as well. All right. I think that concludes our business.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Well, yeah, there's that. Hudsonia.
Thank you for letting me crash your party. I'm glad. I was hoping for something better, and I'm sad that they didn't modify it. If just some movement would have given me reassurance, like Peter said, the color or the material or something, but
Yeah.
I just don't see it on our street.
I don't live on your street and I don't see it either.
Yeah.
Paige, you crashed nothing, Paige.
Yes.
Always
It's
welcome.
always a better party when you're here.
Oh, God. I better start behaving, right? I don't know.
No.
Don't do that.
Being at
We'll
home
wonder who you are.
with my dog all the time.
You start behaving, we're going to have to send you to Community Board 8. So-
Oh, God.
Yikes.
I have to
Bye,
go
guys.
there. Listen, happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Yep.
Night.
All right. All right. See you all on Jan 5th.
Okay.
No.
Oh, we'll see you all on Tuesday, I hope.
Oh, on
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Oh,
Steering,
I'm
steering.
jumping the gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As added inducement, I'm hoping that we will have a presentation on Tuesday about the exonerated 5, who used to be
Oh.
the Central Park 5,
Oh, my
and an
gosh.
effort to have some kind of exhibit that would memorialize their plight in or near Central Park. I will confirm that and get that out tomorrow. But
Right.
added reason to come to make a quorum for receiving nominations next Tuesday.
Lots of reasons. See you all there.
See you all there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Night.